Welcome to Photo Op, the photo opinion podcast where we talk about all things photo and video.
Yes, we do.
I'm your host, Ben Lucas.
And I'm Stuart Marlantis.
And this week on the photo and video topics, we're going to talk about weddings.
Yes, we are.
More specifically, wedding shows.
Yeah, because that's what you just came back from, right?
Because I literally just did one. Yeah, that just happened. We are fresh off this last weekend. I went and did the big Seattle wedding show, as in weddingshow.com, the big one here in the Pacific
Tis the
Northwest.
season, not for weddings yet, but for wedding shows, for sure.
Yes. So let's actually start with why the heck do wedding shows happen in January?
Sure.
That's because everyone gets engaged over the holiday season.
Yeah, so let's start with that. I actually have a list of questions to ask
You do
Ben.
have a list of questions. I don't think that one was on there.
No,
that's
but that's a great first question. Why now? Why in January?
Yeah, because everyone's getting engaged over the holiday season, so everyone needs to do their location scouting and such. So
Also, I mean, like people are like, holy, we plan to get married this year. It's January. Let's go.
Oh no. Yeah, there's also that. There's you've got the early birds that know nothing and the late procrastinators. That's generally the two groups. So if you have absolutely zero interest in weddings, cool. We'll see you in 2 weeks because it's going to be a 2-part episode. But otherwise, stick around. I'm going to tell you basically, we're going to do a little interview. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about wedding shows.
And maybe some things you didn't. I don't know. No, it's all good information.
Yeah, I hope it's all good information. That is
right.
generally why we're here.
So first off, on my list of questions, speaking of things that would be good to know, what can I expect to get if I were to want to go and do a wedding show? What could I expect to get from a wedding show?
Okay. This is actually a great question. So about a decade ago, I did a class on basically how to put together a wedding. I took a class. I learned how to put together my wedding show kit. And basically the instructor in that class is saying you book people at the show. They get the discount only if they sign today. And I have people beelining it to my booth knowing I knew I wanted to hire you anyway. And I wanted to sign up right now for the discount. That doesn't work at all. People spend thousands of, it might have worked for him, sure. But I've never had anyone sign up the day of at the booth. They're spending thousands of dollars. They're not going to make that as a snap decision. The other thing too is if these couples already knew that they wanted to work with you, then just let them hire you. The wedding show is for new people to find you that wouldn't have found you otherwise. So what you can expect is the very first show you do, you might get lucky, or you might say, wow, that sucked a lot. I would say do 2 wedding shows. If the second one sucks, then you can give it up. But basically, there's going to be this snowball effect. So it is currently January 2024. At this wedding show, I got everything from July 2024 to 2026.
Oh, big range.
As inquiries.
Okay.
So again, if someone has a 2026 wedding, they might not book you for 9 to 12 months because they're still a year and a half before their wedding. I used to tell people I normally book 6 to 9 months before the wedding. That has obviously changed because pandemic and weirdness happening with people being able to get venues. Yeah. So what can you expect? You can expect people to get leads and sign up, and then the best you can do is follow up on those leads. I wouldn't expect to close anyone at a wedding show, but I would expect to hey, you really like me and my work. Do you want to set a time where we can have a consultation and see if I'm the right person for you? And then maybe they'll book at the consultation. So that's about as close as you can get to actually booking a wedding.
Booking people at the show seems old school. That seems like pre-internet
super
kind of
old
stuff,
school.
right? When you could only see their stuff there.
The dude that I learned it from was super old school. So,
okay.
You're not going to book anything at the show, but don't let that discourage you.
Yeah, it's getting you out there, and it's
just get the leads and follow up on that. Yeah,
and it's potentially getting you work potentially well in advance.
Yes. Yeah. That's the idea. Yeah. I generally get about half of the weddings I do from wedding shows. And the other half comes from every other source put together. Most of those just being word of mouth.
But half is a substantial portion.
It is.
That's a lot.
It is. Yeah. But some of that word of mouth of let's say I book someone at a wedding show, and then a year and a half later, that person's aunt is like, hey, you shot my niece's wedding. I'm getting remarried. I absolutely love the photos you did for her. I'm hiring you. That happened once.
Perfect.
So like I'm counting that as wedding show because I wouldn't have had access to that network
That
otherwise.
snowballing effect
So
you were
it's
referring
that
to.
snowballing effect. It is word of mouth, but it's word of mouth from someone I got from the wedding show. So it kind of builds on itself.
All right. So I'm convinced. I want to go do wedding shows. It's worth it. When? When should I start? Can I do it too early in my photographic career?
Ooh, too early. That's not something I've thought about.
Like, is that possible?
But yes.
Yes.
So you could do it too early. So I would say if you have never shot a full wedding beginning to end, don't do a wedding show.
Okay.
Second shoot for other photographers. Go find broke students that are just be like, yeah, I'll give you an absolutely killer deal.
Sweet.
So I would say until you have a sizable, I would say there are two benchmarks. At this point, yes, go forth and do a wedding show. Benchmark number one is you have a sizable portfolio to be able to compete with the people that have been doing it for 5 years, 10 years more. Because otherwise, just unless you are so dirt cheap, no one's going to hire you. But if you are so dirt cheap, people are also going to see that as a warning sign. No one's going to hire you. You're not.
Why are you cheap?
These booths are expensive. You're not getting your money back. So until you have a sizable portfolio, don't do it. The other thing is, like I said, it takes a long time for that snowball effect. Can you burn the amount of money it takes to do a wedding show and get nothing back? Until you have that much money, I wouldn't do a wedding show.
That's a good point.
Because you might get your monies back, you might not, or you might get that money back in a year from now. So until if you can't
is
afford
that investment going to pay off by the time?
If you can't afford rent next month by doing this wedding show, pay rent, don't do the wedding show.
Yeah. Keep building your portfolio.
Because that wedding show might be great, but it's not going to pay off immediately.
Yeah. Okay. So it's really an investment, a longer term investment.
It is a longer term investment, and you have to keep going back and do it repeatedly. Yeah.
You said the booths aren't cheap.
No.
How not cheap are they?
How not cheap are they? Okay.
How much does this cost?
So, depending on where you are in the country, in the world actually, but we're US. So, depending on where you are in the country, this is going to flex and variable a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Depending on the show and how many people bought tickets, this is going to vary and flex a lot. So, here in the Seattle area, the cheapest show I've ever seen is $500 for a booth. But this is for an 8x6 with no pipe and drape, no table. It's kind of like a spot on the floor. Yeah. And I'm like, this doesn't even feel worth it. Yeah, you have a place to stand. I'm like, this doesn't feel worth it. And that was $500.
All right.
So the show I do is about $2,000. And so you've got shows that are more, you've got shows that are less, and everything in between. The other thing is that it's not just the cost of the booth. You've got the cost of all your sample albums and all your prints. I actually just updated my print wall. I used to have just like a bunch of like loose leaf easels essentially with all my prints on easels. Well, I actually finally got like an expo display that hangs on the back, pipe and drape.
Sweet.
I got that on a significant discount, and those 12 photos cost me, I think, $1,200.
Okay.
And that was on a deep.
But
I bought it like 9 months ago.
I mean, it's advertising.
I'm
right?
like, oh, this is discounted now because it's out of season. I'm gonna
yeah.
update now because I know I need it next year.
So not only is the wedding show a long-term investment, but you're making long-term investments for that long-term investment.
Yeah. So for your first wedding show, easily $5,000.
Okay.
Easily.
So it's like $2,000 for you in this case of this one now because you've got kind of a thing rolling.
And then I'm not replacing every single print every year, but I do try and keep it fresh. If I shot something really cool, I want to update a little bit. So you can expect to spend a couple $100 updating prints every time.
Okay.
Maybe not every year, every other year, something like that. But you should be keeping things fresh and keeping it updated and making sure that the work you display is what you do, that is current, right?
Cool.
But then all of my albums cost me anywhere between like $800 to $1,000 per album, and I've got like 8 of them. So like granted, I didn't have them all at the first show. At the first show, I had like 2 albums.
You had to get the ball rolling, but then
you had to get the ball rolling
it's
for sure.
grown from there. So with that in mind, so you said that there are cheap ones, there are expensive ones. How do you decide which one to go to? Do you like go by price? Do you go by location?
Ooh.
Like, are there markets you're looking for that they serve in particular? How is that decided?
Yeah, so
Do you have like a budget for this and you're like, I've got X money and it can fit into Y number of, of shows or what?
So, oh man, I feel okay. So go back and listen to our episodes on imposter syndrome because it's hitting me real hard right now. I have thrown so much money down the trash on bad investments, on wedding advertising, on magazine advertising, on wedding shows that never panned out. I've thrown so much money down the tube on stuff that just did not work. Zero return on investment.
That's how you learn.
But a good thing to look out for is does the show have a media kit? In that media kit, how many brides are there? So let's say let's say really quick. Let's just do some back of the napkin math, okay? So let's say a show says we sold 5,000 tickets. Now, that show is going to be saying that 5,000 brides will be there, but the tickets are 2 for 1. So,
okay.
So
sneaky.
So that person who's going to the wedding show is bringing their mom or their best man or some other person who is not affiliated, or maybe their fiance. But again, that's just one wedding. So whatever their tickets sales are, I would say immediately just like knock it in half, maybe take another 10% off top. So instead of 5,000, let's call it like 2,000.
2,000.
Okay. So now of this 2,000, let's say only 1 in 10 is even going to make eye contact with you. Because wedding shows are super weird and they do not want to talk to you. They do not want to be there. They do not want you to talk to them, even though they paid to be there.
So out of 5,000 tickets, you're looking at a couple hundred people.
So yeah. So now of that 5,000 tickets, it's actually only 2,000 weddings. Of that 2,000 weddings, you're hoping 200 of them will actually like make eye contact and talk to you. Now let's say you can get, if you're really good at it, maybe half of them to do data entry and like give you their information.
Oh, okay.
So now you're down.
So it cuts way down.
So now you're down. So it was 5,000 to 2,000, 2,000 to 200, 200 to 100. So now you're at maybe 100 leads.
Okay.
So you can do that quick back of the napkin math to really quickly figure out for the price, is that worth it? And that's just something you have to decide for yourself.
Yeah.
So cost of acquisitions of like, I would love to, pay you $100 and book a wedding, but like my cost of acquisition is actually way higher than that. And I'm doing everything I can to get it down, but I'm also really bad at advertising because I pick all the wrong horses in this race. Seriously, man.
So that's how you decide which ones to attend is based on kind of potential market size.
So I would buy a ticket and attend it. If you know, like next year I want to do this one and I'm not ready yet, go attend the show. Is it packed? Are there a lot of people there? Do you
scout
it out? Is it a barren wasteland?
Especially for your first one, because then you're like, well, man, if I'm doing the upfront, getting the momentum going, $5,000 or whatever, like check it out first.
Absolutely.
Is it a worthwhile investment?
Yeah. If it sucks, like don't go to that one. So buy a ticket, go to it. Again, that means that you couldn't do it that year. You'd have to wait a year. But if you're just getting started in the wedding industry, these are things to look at. So buy a ticket, look at their media kit, see if there are recommendations. Ask around to your friends who might be getting married and be like, hey, where are you looking? Because if they're like, I'm going to go to this show that might be like this little niche show, well, that little niche show that has way less people might be way better if that's a niche who hires you.
Yeah.
So I don't need the 5,000 brides. I'm okay going to a small open house where there are going to be 200 attendees if those 200 attendees all love this one particular style of wedding.
And if a much higher percentage of them talk to you, then great.
Indeed. Yeah. So you just have to kind of like feel it out and do your research, attend the show, go with your gut. Do you think it's going to work for you? And then give it a try. That's kind of all I got on that one.
At some point you have to leap.
Yeah, at some point you got to give it a go.
You mentioned earlier all of these different prints and the system that you're hanging up at the booth. So how much space do you need for all your prints? I mean, people that are watching us on video can see that we even have a space in the studio that has prints.
I do have a little gallery wall behind me.
Is it like this amount of space? Is it more? Is it less?
So,
like, how much space do you need?
So most shows are going to give you a 10 by 10. That's just
10 by
kind
10?
of the going rate.
Okay.
You don't need more. Your 10 by 10 is fine.
That's fine. Okay.
However, once you're balling and you have, you know, if you start getting like associates and you know, booking multiple weddings, and you're kind of in that like big flow rolling, and you can get those bigger like sponsor booth spaces that are like 20 feet, 15, 20 feet, whatever.
Cool.
Then it's like, okay, well, you don't need my advice anymore. Just do what you're going to do.
Yeah, you're already successful.
So if you're listening to this podcast, just take the basic 10 by 10. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
What do you do with that space? Like, they just give you a block of ground and a potential place to hang stuff. Like, what do you do with that?
Yeah, so it comes with like a chair, a table, and a pipe and drape, generally speaking.
Do you lay that in a particular way?
Yeah, I mean,
are you close to the front, or do you bring people in?
The thing is, like, I don't want everyone copying me, because I'm not saying I'm doing it the right way, but I will kind of tell you how I think about laying it out. So they give you a table, and the thing you do not want to do is put the table at the front of your booth.
Okay.
Because you want to be on their side. You want to be their ally and their helper and their, you know, companion through this process. And when you put a table between you, it becomes more transactional.
Okay.
You're
so
like,
it's a barrier.
Yeah,
it's a literal physical barrier.
Literal physical barrier that is also a mental barrier. So what I do is I put all my prints like on the back wall, and then I'll move that table to like the side of the booth, so it kind of creates like a little L, and then they can kind of like come through and look at stuff and like talk to me. Something that I just tried at this wedding show, and I don't know if it's any good, is I actually put the table smack dab in the middle of the 10 feet. So that there was an aisle on each side, so that they could kind of like look on both sides of the table, and like they could like walk around and walk in a circle around it. So all my prints were on the back wall, and the table was short enough that there was enough space to like walk behind it. And I'm not sure how I like that, but I gave that a try, and like basically anything to kind of like bring them in, so that they can spend a little more time there and get more invested. You just don't want to like push them away physically with your table.
Yeah. Just put tables around the entire outer perimeter. Don't come in.
Yeah, man. You'd be surprised.
But yeah, I could see people being tempted to do, maybe not that extreme, but put like stuff. Be like, hey, people are going to come here because there's stuff right in front of them that they can grab and touch and stuff. But there's also a barrier. So
yeah, so like if they're like at a jewelry store, you expect that there's going to be this barrier in between you and the jeweler, right?
Yeah,
because it's all the stuff. Well, I don't like having that barrier, because I don't know. It just there's just this mental psychology.
Well, and as we've talked about in the past, like, you're pitching less the stuff and more the experience.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the stuff, they want the stuff.
Okay, so
it's also the experience.
So funny story. Okay,
Right.
So here's a sample album made by a company that I will not name because they don't exist anymore. So
womp womp.
It is two-tone leather, and it's beautiful and gorgeous. No other company does this. So I no longer talk about the beautiful two-tone leather. On the inside, you've got this crushed velvet, and you can just get lost in it. And
for those of you that aren't watching the video, this is why you should watch the video.
This is why you should watch the video. You've got this beautiful crushed velvet inside. Guess what? Other companies don't do this either. So I used to say, look at this gorgeous album. Look how amazing it is. Look at, first family heirloom. But two things happened. One, everyone started using the exact same albums. So it no longer was a differentiation. And two, I was getting people be like, I already hired another photographer, but this album is dope. Can I just give you the photos and have you print my album?
Can you just
and
be a print service?
And I'm like, no. Well, so honestly, I was
sure for $3,000.
I had a lot of people confusing me for a print service, and they're like, cool, I hired. So like, I had my giveaway be like, enter to win like a free like 16 by 24 print. Here's the catch: if you don't hire me, you can't get that print because I didn't take your photo.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But like I used to do that, and people are like, cool, I'm just gonna send you the print and you'll print it for me. I'm like, no, that's not how that works. And they were
Nice try.
and people were genuinely just like confusing me for a print service. So
You were too good at selling.
I was too good at selling. So yeah, you're not selling the product, you are absolutely selling yourself and the experience for sure. Your product has to be good. Don't get me wrong. Your product has to be good enough. And then the differentiation is going to be you as a person.
Speaking of you as a person, is it just you at these booths? Do you have other people helping?
Okay, so at some of the shows that are smaller and deader, and I know I can get away with it, it's just me. But at the big Seattle show, I always bring an assistant because if I need to step away for any reason, my booth is now unoccupied. And an unoccupied booth gets 0 leads.
Fair enough.
People might swipe brochures off the table, but those brochures are going to go immediately into the trash.
Sorry, Ben, you can't use the bathroom for the whole weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the other thing that happens is people will come. It might be dead for a little while, but people will come in droves and waves. Well, now I can talk to someone. My assistant can talk to someone, and then like I do my best to kind of like pawn someone off onto an album so they don't like go away, but that I can like get the new person who's kind of like stalled a little bit and kind of bring them in. So I can potentially be talking up to 2 people. They can potentially be talking up to 2 people. Okay. So now we have 4 people instead of 0. So that's the like in those droves and waves. Basically, if they keep walking, you're never going to hear from them again. That list that the show gives you is useless, completely useless. You might get those 700 names that came with that list, but they didn't talk to you, so they won't hire you.
So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Literally does not matter.
Interesting. So you do have help with the sort of sales side of things and not just setup. Yeah.
Everyone's always like assuming that my assistant is the photographer. And I generally always pick female assistants. Just how
it works out.
That's kind of how it works out. Yeah. But also, the majority of the people going to the shows are brides. Not to be sexist or anything, but dudes don't go. And yeah, they feel more comfortable with a woman there, right?
Fair enough.
And it's like, yeah, cool. But yeah, they're talking to her and she's like, oh, no, Ben's actually the photographer. And it's like, oh, cool. So you're going to be there too as photographer number 2? No, I'm just helping him today talk to people.
Well, that's, I mean, for the booth babe experience, that's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, there you go.
That sounds like a very positive experience compared to what I've heard of other shows.
It is.
Nice.
I try to make it one anyway.
Absolutely. So you did touch on this a little bit, but I'd like to kind of close this out more. This deal that you had with people coming to the show, do you still offer those kind of things? Is there a special package for the show? Do you offer any special deal? Is there anything that you want? Because you also said you don't expect to close deals during the show.
Do not expect to close deals at the show.
And then, but do you try that at all? Is there any special perk that people get?
Yes, you absolutely have to give them a perk. That's the whole reason they spent money on tickets to be here.
Okay.
So,
so what does that perk look like for you?
This question is a little complicated because there's some math involved. Oh no, math. So at least for me, because at one point in time, I just tried it and didn't do the math, and it didn't work. Okay. So let me kind of explain. Based on your packages, let's say that you have 3 wedding packages. We'll call them, big, small, medium, or what? Big, medium, small. Yeah.
Grande,
venti. Yeah. Okay. You've got your big package. You've got your medium package. You've got your small package.
All
okay.
Right.
So what needs to happen is if you give a discount, right? You want to give that discount to everyone. You don't want to just give it to the big rollers.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
Well, what happens is if you don't do the math right, if you give a discount, then someone might just take your, rather than moving up a package, they might just take your smallest package and like move up an hour or something.
Okay.
And then you're doing the same amount of work, but getting less money.
Okay. Yeah.
So you really don't want to give a discount without doing math first. Now, what you can do is offer free stuff. Free stuff is great because if you offer $300 in free stuff, it is not costing you $300 out of your pocket. If you say $300 in print sales, it's maybe costing you $100, right? If you're saying like get a free guest book, okay, you're at $100, not $300 plus your design time. If free extra hour of coverage, people love that. It costs you nothing. It costs you your time, but that is still valuable. So they're still getting value out of that. So yes, you want to definitely incentivize them to book. And it can be whatever you want, whether it's like book by the end of the week, book in the next 30 days, book. We set some amount of time period that gives them some time constraint because otherwise they're just gonna be like, oh, I got time. And then you'll never
and then they'll
hear
forget
from them again.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Makes sense.
So yeah, there definitely needs to be something, and that something needs to be something you can deliver on. If you're the type of person who just shoot and burns, then don't offer a free print if you aren't able to like do printing.
Yeah,
right?
so you can customize it to you.
Yeah, so you can customize that perk to you. So like the examples that I use, get like 200 free thank you cards.
Oh, okay.
Because that's something that, they'll add on afterwards, and otherwise it might be something that they might not have been buying from you, but it's a value added, and that doesn't cost me as much as I charge, right? And then or free extra hour of coverage. Hopefully you're including engagement sessions in your package, but if not, get a free engagement session. The problem with that one is people will be like, oh, I want a free engagement session. They'll take their freebie and then not hire you. So you really do want to tie all of your incentives to, if you book me, you also get this, whether that is a discount or a freebie. You don't want to just give out freebies.
You got to buy in.
You got to buy in to get your freebie. yeah, for sure.
Fair enough. Only fair. Yeah. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. You're going to have to tune in next time for part 2. We're going to talk about stuff. We're going to talk about picking prints. We're going to talk about standing out, important things.
Ooh.
So thanks for joining us for part 1. And we'll see you in part 2 for even more helpful tips.
I'll also throw in some stories about the random crazy things people have had the audacity to say to my face.
So both tips and fun stories.
Seriously, some of them are absolutely wild.
Awesome. Well, even more incentive to tune in next time.
If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at hello@photo-op.show.
Watch us on Ben's YouTube channel at NomCreative.
As in Om Nom Nom.
Share this with a friend, and you can listen to Photo Op anywhere podcasts are sold.
Or download it. 'Cause it's free.